Hey everyone, please subscribe to my channel right now. The rooftop ballroom sparkled under chandeliers, with glass walls revealing the Denver skyline. Snow still topped the distant Rockies, showing how near the wild was to the urban heart. Within, every element was arranged to mark Garrett's 35th birthday with a string quartet. Trays of hors d'oeuvres, a private chef slicing prime rib beneath golden glows. I had pitched in over $1,000 to pull it off. Vintage wine from a Napa vineyard and part of the chef's fee. Not a single thank you came my way. My parents glided by me like I was just another stranger in some other clan. Their focus remained fixed on Gareth, who held court in the room's middle, gripping hands and drinking in praise like it was air. Such charisma, such grace, my mother raved to Aunt Lillian. He's always possessed that knack for connecting. The reality that my brother hadn't worked in years apparently didn't count. I lingered by the bar, wineglass steady in my grip, when snippets drifted from the nearby table. Celine slaves away endlessly, one cousin grumbled. All that tech stuff? But to what end? She's still by herself. Another voice chuckled quietly. Career before kin. She'll rue the day. I gazed into my glass, forcing calm to hold. It was familiar. The signal had rung out since I was little. Garrett the shining light. Celine the dim outline. This evening, the divide cut deeper than before. I drew a slow breath, braced to weather yet another night of fading into nothing, unaware that the instant looming would call for much more than silent endurance. The space changed when my father climbed the little stage by the quartet. He lifted his glass, then pinged the microphone, his tone booming with the assurance of someone never denied. Tonight we celebrate Gareth, my exceptional son, on his 35th birthday, and we have news to share. The quartet halted mid-phrase. Talks hushed to quiet. I placed my glass down, feeling a wrongness I couldn't pinpoint. My father beamed broadly, his arms slung over Gareth. Our giving daughter Celine has chosen to present her penthouse near Union Station to her brother. A new beginning for him, a sign of family togetherness. The statement struck like a punch. My lungs froze. My home, the spot I'd battled for amid endless late shifts, deals, and gambles, had been tossed aside like mere party swag. Applause started tentative, then built strong. Some clapped on reflex. Others whispered nods, as if the choice was set in granite. I stood rigid, warmth climbing my torso, shame squeezing my sides. Garrett's fiancée pressed close to him, her eyes shining with victory. I glanced at my mother. She tipped her head at me like urging a kid to act right, her mouth bending into a grin that ordered more than soothed. It's just right, she murmured to a close guest. Volume pitched, so I caught it. The din turned overwhelming. I sensed every stare on me, awaiting my agreement, anticipating my warm smile, my polite dip. My hand shook on the glass stem, yet my words rang clear when they came. No. The syllables sliced the air, keener than any quartet strain. The clapping stumbled. Talks broke into hush. My father's grin vanished, swapped for that familiar glare, doubt hardening to wrath. I stood tall, locking eyes with him. I earned that home. It's mine. I refused to hand it over. The ballroom felt askew, and I realized right then the evening had quit being about Garrett's birthday. It centered on me and the boundary I'd just set. For an instant, the quiet lingered. Then Garrett's chair scraped harshly on the floor. He charged at me, cheeks red, the poise he cloaked himself and ripped off. You ungrateful. His sentence snapped as his palm flew. The smack rang through the ballroom, crisp and absolute. Hurt blazed over my cheek, jerking my head aside. I reeled but stayed upright. Gasps burst out. Someone yelled my name. A dozen phones rose instantly. Red record lights blinking. My pearl earring whirled over the marble, clattering to rest under a table foot. The room contracted. Every bit burned in stark detail. The chandeliers gleam in the glass. The guest's lobe was already starting. The red mark I sensed swelling on my face. I brushed my cheek gently, evening my breath. Gareth loomed above me, breaths ragged, expecting me to shatter, but I denied him that. Gradually, I knelt, retrieved the earring, and curled my fingers over its sleek form. I faced him, My brother, the favored one whose flops were always overlooked, and offered the slightest smile. Happy birthday, brother. The phrase hit harder than any yell. His gaze wavered, bewilderment piercing the anger. I pivoted before he could reply. The throng split as I moved, murmurs trailing me like shades. Phones tracked my path, snapping every view of my departure. Behind, the gathering dissolved into turmoil, but I was done with it. The sturdy doors shut as I entered the hall, the atmosphere cooler, calmer, yet still electric. My grip firmed on the earring, and I knew I had to reach out to someone who'd get it. The hallway lay still. Music and voices dulled beyond the thick doors. My cheeks still stung from Garrett's strike, but the keener ache ran deeper. The truth that nobody in there had moved to intervene. Not my mother, not my father, not a single guest bold enough to challenge it. I drew my phone, fingers quivering. My thumb paused over Maris's contact. She picked up at once. Celine, what's happened? The story poured out before I could hold it. The reveal, the slap, the quiet that followed. Her fury snapped over the connection. They shamed you before the whole crowd. And he struck you. Celine, this won't do. Call Eleanor. The name froze me. Eleanor Whiteam, my grandmother. 80 years strong, mind keen as a blade. The woman who'd survived 2 downturns, a busted property scene, and half of Denver's messes. She'd always kept distance, but never ignored facts. The Harwood name still bent to her will. Maris, she'll see it as me pulling her into mess, I breathed. Mess? He hit you. That's assault. And your parents just sat like stone. Eleanor's the only one they still dread. Call her. I eyed the lit contacts, heartbeat thumping. For years, I'd shunned relying on her. Sure, I needed to show I could stand alone. But tonight, self-reliance had stranded me in a corridor, clutching an earring like armor. My thumb tapped her entry. Eleanor Whiteam. The thread of influence spanning eras. That bankrolled family ventures that molded Denver's elite. I hit call. It rang once, twice. My ribs squeezed, bracing for the tone that could flip this night upside down. The call wrapped with just 4 words. I'm coming, Celine. No lecture, no delay. Pure vow. I waited in the hall, heartbeat uneven, until the faint buzz of voices from the ballroom rose once more. 30 minutes on, the doors swung wide, and the vibe altered at once. Eleanor Whiteam didn't stroll, she ruled. Her silver cane hit the marble with every stride, the tap booming louder than the quartet's whole set. Talks cut off mid-word. The group divided like she bore judgment's full force. At 80, my grandmother still donned power like her own flesh, her stare cutting sharper than crystal. She skipped me at first, fixing on my father. Daniel, she stated, her pitch low but slicing the quiet. Tell me why you dared strike my granddaughter. My father stumbled, mic still gripped tight. Color fled his face, the smooth host mask crumbling. My mother gripped his arm, mouth clamped, hunting a shield that wouldn't appear. Eleanor raised her cane, aiming it at the floor. You have 5 minutes, she declared, her voice even as rock. Locate the earring she dropped when you hit her. If it's not in my grasp, I'll deal with this my way. The guests fidgeted, swapping looks like unsure if it was show or settling scores. Gareth dropped fast, his fine jacket grazing the floor as he hunted by the tables. His fiancée crouched next to him, face ashen. Aunts, uncles, cousins, folks who'd gossiped about me moments ago, now knelt, peering under seats, shifting cloths and glasses. I held by the entry, the cool pearl safe in my fist. The space that had rooted for my brother now hummed with desperate motion. Eleanor's command weighed on every spine bent low. My grandmother's gaze scanned the chaos, steady, unflinching, awaiting the honesty she already grasped. The clock dragged, the hunt yielding nothing. I kept my hand shut over the earring, its heft underscoring that Eleanor's order was never about the gem. It aimed to bear them all. Finally, she banged her cane on the marble, the noise like a gavel. All halted, faces swinging to her. Enough, she commanded. Her stare pinned my father first. Daniel, you lead a firm. Yet you can't master your rage. You swung at my granddaughter like her worth was yours to squander. He parted his lips, but silence followed. Her eyes moved to my mother. Susan, you've spoiled Gareth into worthlessness and watched cruelty turn custom while staying mute. Your quiet roars louder than his blow. My mother's features clenched, but she held her tongue. Then Eleanor's cane arced to Gareth, still hunkered low. And you, 35 years in, no job, no respect, yet you think her home's yours by right. You've claimed plenty from your sister. The hush crushed against the glass walls, pierced only by recording phones, snapping flashes. Eleanor drew up straight, posture firm. Let it stand tonight before these eyes that I will revise my will. All I hold, my estate, my stakes, my holdings will go to Celine. Not to you, Daniel. Not to you, Susan, and not to you, Gareth. She alone has shown she can create and safeguard what's hers. The room exploded. Gasps, cries, kin overlapping in uproar. Aunts clashed with uncles, cousins objected, tones surging to frenzy. Guests hoisted phones higher, seizing every beat, screens aglow red. I remained rooted. My grandmother's pronouncement wrapped me like armor. For the first time that night, I didn't feel outmatched. I felt acknowledged. Eleanor caught my gaze over the ballroom, her tiny nod outweighing all their clamor. And as the group splintered into fury and doubt, I grasped that her statement's ripples wouldn't stop here. By morning, my phone hummed without cease. Alerts piled quicker than I could swipe them. Each a sign that last night's shame had burst the ballroom. A live feed had blown up first on Instagram, then Twitter, then Denver local news. Snippets of Garrett's slap, the crowd's intake, and Eleanor's iron words raced like flames. Headlines flooded. Millionaire heir strikes sister in penthouse row. Comment zones brimmed with fury. Outsiders picked apart every frame, looping the smack of his palm, freezing the earring's flight. Disgusting. She merits more. Picture slapping your sister for not yielding her house. By midday, Denver's Channel 7 ran a piece. They cycled Eleanor's vow endlessly. I will rewrite my will. Everything I own will pass to Celine. The news voice mixed stun with respect. The backlash hit swift. Garrett's fiancée shared a vague Facebook note on rethinking bonds rooted in deceit. Days later, the engagement ended for good. My father's deal partners yanked from agreements, blaming image risks. My mother's once admired Cherry Creek set withered in a flash. Calls ceased. Pals dodged her at shops. I perched on my couch, phone clutched. The Denver skyline unfurled broad through the rear glass. Revenge ought to taste sweet, but it weighed dense, nearly choking. The world at last witnessed my ordeal. Yet triumph didn't surge through me. Weariness did. Years of gulping their brush-offs, their bias. Their muteness had hardened into one open settling. The remarks kept streaming, some backing, others probing, a handful prying. I flipped the screen down on the table and shut my eyes. Fairness had come, but it bore its own load, and I knew it wasn't over. Not with my parents still thinking they could sway me. 2 nights on, the doorbell chimed after twilight. I nearly ignored it, but the dim shapes through the frosted pane confirmed it. My parents waited on the stoop, their stances slumped, far from the sleek MCs of Garrett's bash. As I swung the door, my father spoke first, tone hushed. Celine, we must speak. My mother advanced fast, eyes puffy, voice begging. We aired. The strain to prop Gareth up, it spiraled. We forgot who we were. I blocked the entry, arms folded, chest knotted. You didn't forget yourselves, I replied. You picked. You claimed my home, then watched him hit me before 30 witnesses. My father winced like the phrases struck him. He tried anew, gentler. You know how looks count in this town. We figured you I broke and that my efforts, my givings, my self-reliance could be twisted into a handout for Gareth. And when I said no, you let him swing at me without raising a finger to halt it. My mother's palm extended, shaky. We're family still. Celine, can't we begin fresh? I retreated, head shaking. Family doesn't seek submission that costs self-respect. Family doesn't swap faithfulness for hush. For a beat, neither uttered a sound. The quiet pulled long, alive only with the city's drone past my balcony panes. Their strained, pleading visages merged with years of being overlooked, ignored, unloved unless I bent. I set my hand on the door. This is where I draw the line. Their forms hung as the door shut, the last snap resounding in my core. I pressed to the panel, pulse racing. But the burden that had pinned me for years started rising, clearing space for fresh starts. Weeks slipped by, and the scandals didn't ease from blast to faint echo. Front pages dimmed, reply chains stilled, but the void for my parents and Gareth endured. No rings, no notes, no final pushes for mending. Their emptiness rang louder than their talk ever had. In that same span, my life reshaped. At the Denver Tech Summit, I took the stage as our firm's new chief technology officer. A crystal award gleamed in my hold under the lights. Cheers swelled from coworkers and unknowns, their expressions bright with genuine regard, not strings. For the first time, acclaim arrived unbound. Later, I met Maris and Eleanor for a cozy downtown toast. Maris lifted her glass, smile broad, to Celine, who proved boundaries aren't barriers. They're gates you pick who enters. Eleanor sat close, came propped on the table, gaze bold and sure. I told you, she murmured low. You hold more grit than all of them together. Never doubt it. The glow of that instant was absent for years. Chuckles rang at the table. Real, unvarnished, true. Around me, folks lingered, driven by choice, not duty. Home that night, the penthouse shifted feel. Same glass walls, same skyline over the city, but no more a stronghold to guard. It turned into a haven to invite those who picked me, not press me. As I doused the lights, the quiet beyond my family's gap no longer stung like absence. It rang like liberty, steering me to what awaited. 3 months later, the city gleamed in light waves below. From my balcony, cranes by Union Station shimmered against the Denver view, each a nod to how fast things turn. The penthouse underfoot once seemed shaky, a trophy others eyed. Now it stood solid, fully mine. The documents landed a week prior. Eleanor's script bold on each sheet. Her estate holdings, stakes, assets locked in my name. When I expressed thanks, she just flicked her wrist and said, I'm handing it to the sole one who won't squander it. Within, the space is hushed but alive. Maris dropped in often, sparking kitchen talk and living room joy. Colleagues swung by post-late office hours, hauling food boxes and tales. Eleanor's cane still clicked my halls for tea visits, her nearness anchoring deeper than any deal. The quiet for my parents and Gareth had set permanent, but I quit gauging myself by it. I'd ceased hunting entry to their nod. This spot, this existence quit being about outlasting them. It centered on picking folks who honored me enough to stand with me. Resting on the balcony rail, I sensed night breeze chill my skin. The fights lay past, but the truth held firm. Family aren't those who grab your keys, but those who shield your worth. When worth seals one door and unlocks another, which path will you take?